Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Infinite Cup podcast. My name is Robert. I am your host. This week, I have Kendall for you from TheRawAdvantage. We had such a great conversation about all things spirituality. He's a yoga teacher, certified nutritionist. We talked about his spiritual awakening, Costa Rica, retreats. I mean, we really had a good time. And I want to emphasize spirituality. I want to emphasize balance here. You know, when we're doing these podcasts, I just do them totally intuitive. I don't write down any questions. We don't have anything. We're just flowing. We're just living in the now. And I want you guys to do the same thing. So that's what this podcast is all about. I really want to circle in as much valuable information into your eyes and ears as possible. So thank you so much for being here. If you would like to take 2 minutes of your time and go over to Amazon and leave a review for my book, The Real Yoga, if you have purchased it, that would be awesome. If you also leave a review on this Apple iTunes store, wherever you downloaded this podcast, that would be very cool as well. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being a part of this magic. And without any further ado, I now present Chris from TheRawAdvantage.
So how you doing, man? Where are you at?
Doing great. I'm in California, Northern California by Sacramento. You're
Nice.
in Canada, right?
Yeah, I'm in Saskatchewan.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's like the eastern part of Canada, right?
You know, pretty central. Pretty
that's
central.
Right. Central, right in between. I've been to British Columbia.
Yeah.
I've driven like to Alaska a couple times. So I've been through just the western hemisphere of Canada. I have not seen the eastern or central part. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't want to be biased and not say the rest is awesome, but you know, the West Coast I think is pretty fucking awesome. Whether it's Canada or the States, I've been on both sides of both, and I love. There's things you love about both, but West has my heart a little more.
Yeah, just for the nature vibes and the boreal forest and everything. I'm right there with you. It's just gorgeous. I think the closest I've been is Banff National Park, which is central, but not quite that far in your direction.
Banff is sick.
I love Banff. That's probably my number 3 favorite national park.
Do a little bit of snowboarding or what?
You know, I've never been snowboarding or done any winter sports, but I just like hiking and venturing and just the wilderness in general. So it's really just like the wildest places that I can get to. And Banff, like I said, is up there on that list for sure.
100%. Feel a little jealous. You got the awesome mic. I actually have like a really good quality professional mic, but I rarely have it set up.
Yeah, it's all good. No, I just got this one. I'm just trying to up my performance here. You know, the podcasting thing is finally becoming popular, and it's just the way I look at it. It's just as many avenues of content as possible these days, you know, and people are wanting more audio, which is great. I mean, the video is wonderful too. We can put this on YouTube and share it and all that good stuff. It's just people, you know, want information as all ways as possible now. So it's just exciting.
Makes sense. I mean, I'm the same way, truthfully. I prefer the podcasts typically because I like to do it when I'm working out or if I'm going somewhere where I can't be looking, right? So, I mean, yeah, it makes total sense.
Exactly. We like to multitask these days, and it's really easy to listen to podcasts, especially me while I was on the farm and stuff. It's so easy just to educate yourself and uplift your mind while you're, you know, doing what you do.
100%.
Yeah, man.
What does it say? What does it say behind you? Welcome.
Oh, I just had a baby, my first baby.
Oh, no way! Congrats.
Baby. Yep. So this is my beautiful home, my van. For those of you, you know, listening, it's just one of those things where this has been my dream, you know, come true for a long time, and yeah, it's finally all pieced together, and it's kind of like my studio. You know, it's like I insulated it. It's all soundproof in here. I love nature. Like I told you about, you know, going to Alaska. The first time I did that was in a little Geo Metro. Oh. So after doing that, man, I just, you know, gotta have a little luxury, and I spent a lot on accommodations as I'm traveling and stuff. So. The van life is just amazing, man. And now with my beautiful fiance, Alison, and, you know, our firstborn son, he's just turned a month old. So it's exciting, man. Very exciting.
Yeah. And you guys are full-time in the van?
Yeah, full-time in the van right now. Our vision that we're creating right now is a retreat center, like what you're doing in Costa Rica.
Yep.
You know, we're all on this wavelength. You know, I started following you a long time ago, man. And just to give you a little background about me real quick, that'll, you know, make all these puzzle pieces come together. It's like, I was just kind of living behind the scenes for a long time and just like off the grid. I didn't even have a cell phone, you know, until a couple of years ago. And I basically have just been gathering this knowledge. And it wasn't until just a few years ago, I was like, okay, I got to do this. I got to get on the grid. I got to get on the internet and kind of just, you know, there was a lot of fear that I had, I'm not going to lie, from technology and things. And now I had to just get over all of that and embrace, everything, and just, what we're passionate about. Obviously, raw foods and fruit and all this stuff has become a huge part of my life, and now I just want to share it with others. So
It's beautiful, man. I
yeah.
can 110% resonate. And I mean, we can get overwhelmed with technology and think that it's crazy or look at the dark sides of it. But the reality is we're very blessed to be able to connect and touch so many lives and be reached out to by so many as well. So like we're
Yes.
talking about, man, like, yeah, we can learn and grow at an accelerated pace with all these gifts that have come up over the last decades.
It's amazing. And just the access to this information, right? Like, to me, there's just no excuses anymore,
Yeah.
When we were both getting into this, like, YouTube and everything wasn't a
Wasn't
thing.
even there. It
Yeah.
wasn't even there. Yeah.
And look at it now. It's like, it's just, I mean, there's probably too much out there now. So for
Yeah.
me, and just to, make sense of everything, why I created what I'm doing with the Infinite Cup, it's just, I know a lot of people, that are raw vegan and fruitarian, all this stuff is good, but they were still lacking in, just general happiness, just weren't really, I would say the best people, very judging. And I'm not saying everyone's like that. What I'm saying is
No.
I experience a lot of that. Right. And
Yeah.
then I'm also a yoga teacher. I love spirituality. And it's one of those things where I want to like bring that into modern times. So I feel like the people in the, food movement need a little dose of spirituality, and the people in the spirituality movement need a little dose of, veganism, basically.
Yeah, I can resonate.
Yeah. So I'm trying to just merge all this together.
Yeah.
And I think you're just an amazing, what I really like is just one word answers too. And I would say you're a really authentic person. So
Well, thanks.
that's why I wanted to bring you on the show, bring you, talk about your story, talk about everything that you do, because like I said, I've been following you for a while. And at the end of the day, you're still one of the most authentic people that I can think of that is still walking the walk, right? And actually talking about it and sharing your story with others. And people are obviously resonating with that, and you're changing lives, and it's awesome. So yeah.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. It's going to be hard to keep some of these to one word answers, but I'll try my best.
No, I just, like, to me, when I think about authenticity, right? Like, that's what I
Yes.
value the most right now.
Yeah.
So like, my favorite quote that I'm going with right now is authenticity is the new enlightenment, right? Get
Love
all
it.
that stuff out of the way and just focus on authenticity. Focus on what makes you you. Like, when I think about you, skateboarding, surfing, I mean, just doing what you love, right? Something as simple as that is completely
That's it.
overlooked.
Yeah.
In this modern age. So yeah, let's just start with you. Like, just for people that don't know you, just a little intro, and like, how did all this start? How did this thing, start for you? This thing, this lifestyle, however you want to, describe it.
Well, this could be a long thing. How long do we got? Jeez,
Oh, sure.
No.
It's usually an hour and so, but we'll go with the flow.
All right, I'll be a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it all started with skateboarding, and I'll start there because of your mention of passion. Like, I feel very blessed that my entire life has truly been led by passion, doing the things I love, and the feeling that literally I'm saving the world somehow by being me. And
yes.
I felt like that from the beginning. Like, skateboarding, I was like, this is what I love. This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm going to do. And I started at the age 5. And by the time I was 18, 19, I was trying to be a professional. I was getting close. I could have been professional in Canada, but it didn't feel real to me. I started drinking a ton. I drank a little bit earlier, but I moved out and started like drinking every day and, smoking weed all the time and smoking a pack of cigarettes every few days and eating fast food all day, every day. I literally thought Taco Bell was like the pinnacle of food.
Oh yeah.
I would eat like, $7 worth, which is a lot, especially back in 1999 and, or 98 even. And I would go skate all day. But long story short, within the next year and a half, I started falling apart and I started getting depressed and I started having aching joints and I started being like just the opposite of really what I wanted to exemplify and be. I was like, not healing well and not enjoying myself and drinking then for the wrong reasons versus before, whether or not there's right reasons or wrong reasons.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying, right? And, a little bit of a backtrack. I was, in my mid-teens and stuff like that. I was really interested in spirituality and I was reading lots of different religious stuff. And, I remember reading stuff like the Celestian Prophecies in my mid-teens and all the books by Don Juan, and was interested in plant medicines and all those different things. And, but when I was about 19, I was living in Edmonton, and I knew I needed something because I was like going to bed every night wishing I wouldn't wake up. I was very depressed. I was in airplanes wishing they'd crash, and I knew I needed something. And I was in Walmart and I found a yoga DVD VHS.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like this. This is awesome. All right.
Yeah, so I found a yoga VHS, a Rodney Yee intermediate power yoga class,
Mm.
and I started doing it religiously, right? I just started doing it all the time, every day, and I really noticed that it was helping, and it got me really interested in yoga and yogic literature.
Yeah.
So I started reading more yogic literature, and just kind of got really interested in the idea of vegetarianism and of karma and mindfulness, and started incorporating that into my daily practice. And that kind of got me interested in nutrition. So it was actually yoga first, then nutrition.
Yeah.
Spirituality, yoga, nutrition. And I was just as passionate about yoga as I was about skateboarding, because I was just getting stuff from it, right?
Yeah,
And
totally.
I remember I came home and I was like, okay, the next piece is diet. And I went to a used bookstore, and one book out of the entire walls, there's walls and then all the different things, just jumped out. And it was called Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond. And my life changed forever from there. I mean, both points, the yoga and the raw food, just boom. And really what I got from that book was food combining, eating fruit on an empty stomach and treating fruit as meals.
Yes.
And then I also learned kind of going more towards vegetarian veganism, kind of lower fat, higher carbohydrate. And this is now 19 years ago. And since then, I think I've had about 4 or 5 cooked breakfasts. Yeah. So, and I started just taking food combining on very seriously. It was the going towards vegetarian vegan that took a little longer, but it was over a 5-year period that I went from like fast food, junk food, drunk to high raw vegan, and over that time I researched a ton, and I was always interested in making food. So I was always chefing, and I was looking progressively more and more for a vegetarian vegan cooking school, but I couldn't find one. All the while I was skateboarding. Realistically, all of these things I was doing was just so I could skateboard more. But, as the reasons grew for going more into plant-based living, so did the enthusiasm for it. And then it became just as big of a passion as skateboarding as well. This all kind of climaxed around 15 years ago. So I guess that was like 2003 or 2. At that point, I was high raw vegan. I'd been reading vegan books and stuff like that, and vegetarian books. I read Diet for New America, and a couple books by David Wolf and a couple other people.
I love those early days, man. The early days when I just feel like things have changed so much since like that time frame that you're talking about right now. So it's like night and day difference. And at the same time, like the principles that you're talking about from 20 years ago is what I mean. It's very simple, and it's the mind that wants to complicate this. And I'm sure you experience this in coaching clients and stuff. It's like, that to me, like what you're describing, like the passion is what fueled this, right? And it's like, we can't insert the passion, you know what I mean? So everyone finds that on their own time, and it has to come from within. So 100%. The information that you got from these books is wonderful. It's just that, to me, the most important element is that passion. And that's something, like I said, you can't, give to anybody. You just have to, trial and error. Obviously you started skateboarding and loved it. You started yoga and loved it. You know what I mean? Like you have to, I'm certified in Raja Yoga. It's just karma, like take action, right? We have to take action, all about this. And it's just, I just wanted to stop you there real quick, because I feel like that's the missing link. I feel like a lot of people need to hear is like searching for that passion. Yeah, the recipes are wonderful. That's all good. It's just, it's very much like a holistic approach with 100% passion being number one.
100%. I mean, that is definitely the connective thing, right? Because it's like, I mean, and so often with the action, then you get the experience and then the passion comes after. But sometimes you have the passion first and it's a mix, and there can be discouragement along the road. But as long as you stick with it and you flow from what really lights you up, then you're more likely to continue to grow in that passion and connection to source, right? And
I agree.
So it's man. I mean, I was just in that stage where I was like, kind of I wanted to be a chef, but I also was really into nutrition, and I couldn't find any nutrition schools that, I couldn't find any chefing schools that had a full-on vegan program. All of them, you had to sample meat, make meat. And I was like, my girlfriend at the time was like, you know what, you should just go into nutrition. So I went into nutrition, and it was funny because still at that point, I went into nutrition just to further my skateboarding. And, it was a 1-year full-time holistic nutrition course. I'm now a registered holistic nutritionist. And the pretty much right when I started that school actually is when I went full on vegan and was basically eating fruit and salads till dinner, and then cooked carbohydrates for dinner, kind of the raw till 4, what they call it now, right? And it was about 6 months into that program that I went to a Taste of Health in Vancouver. This is now 15 years ago. And I met Dr. Doug Graham. There was 2 other raw Buddhists there. Tanya Kay was there, and Brennan Brazier was there, which I got to know a little bit, and one other fellow. But Doug Graham just jumped out, and like what he was sharing just simplified. Because like I said, I mean, I had been a nutrition nerd for 5 years at that point, reading everything I could, and you know, in school for 6 months, reading everything I could, and oftentimes, like you said, things are just made overly complicated, and he simplified it, but not just like, you know, in just a really simple way. He also brought in the science and brought in the common sense and brought in everything. And truthfully too, like before that, when I was in my younger years, I used to like a lot of hallucinogenics. I mean, I talked about Carlos Castaneda and stuff like that. And while I couldn't get some of the stuff that was talked about in the book at that time, I did love magic mushrooms, and I used to just sit out in the countryside or sit out by the river and see auras around plants and trees, and I just loved it. You know, like I didn't really use it for a party, maybe the early days, but after that, it was more for myself. And I hadn't used them for years because I kind of let go of that for a time. Yeah. But when I was watching Doug on stage, he was glowing. He was literally the first human being, not in an altered state, that I saw, like with some energy coming off of him, and I was like. He's got something going on. I'm gonna listen to him. And yeah, you know, I went to every one of his classes that day. I talked to him after for like half an hour, 45 minutes, as he was just eating a big bin of blueberries for dinner. And I was just like, what, you know? And I was used to, you know, fruit for breakfast and lunch, but I just for some reason never even conceived of it for dinner, you know. And all the other raw books didn't really point to how much of what to eat or anything. And he cleared that up. So the next day I went 100% raw, and I can say that I had probably my biggest Satori moment or heart opening moment. I was walking down the street within like, I mean, it was midday that day, and my heart was just so wide open that I just saw everyone as myself, everyone as love, everyone as connected, and tears were rolling down my face. And I was just like, oh my God, this is why I'm here, you know, to share this. Like, and you're talking about like, you know, you can't pass passion on really the same way as you can pass information. But I remember just thinking like, if I could just tap people in the head and they could feel what I feel, that'd be the most, like, it's just so amazing. But I just felt so lit up. I knew like, this is my path. And I went back and, you know, listened to Doug more, and we've been in touch ever since. And basically it took, you know, 5 years of applying the lifestyle holistic. I finished my schooling and was, you know, just experimenting and learning with raw food. And after 5 years of doing it, I couldn't deny it any longer that, again, this is my calling. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to spread. I was in another relationship scenario where my girlfriend was trying to like say like, you know, this or that. And I was like, I have to do this, you know, like this is what my heart is singing for. And I remember even saying like, I'd rather die than do anything else. Like, this is what I'm here. And within a month, I had my website up, had my first 2 books up, and started making blog posts. And that's all I do now. It's been 10 years traveling, you know, doing retreats, doing festivals. I work as a chef, a yoga teacher, a speaker. You know,
that's awesome, it's so cool to hear you talk like this, because it's funny. Like I have this like timeline in my mind, because I feel like when Doug Graham and 80-10 and everything came out, it's just like that. There was like this new wave, and not a lot of people even knew about raw veganism at all. And then that was kind of like the thing that solidified it for a lot of people. So it's cool looking back. I remember watching even like Ravana's. She went down there and did a big retreat thing and had her like first bite of watermelon after a 30-day fast. That was one of the videos that really stuck into my mind's eye way back then. And I was like, people were just now starting to talk about this, and it became a thing. And this is cool. What I really love about you that you've already tapped into is that spirituality component. Like, I swear nobody talks about this in this raw vegan or vegan scene or whatever. You know, I'm all for compassion. I'm all for saving the animals. All this stuff is wonderful. I'm not like, you know, lowering that at all. What I'm saying is, to me, the real essence is our spirituality. We are spirit. You've had this experience. I mean, we can't go back from that, you know. And it's like I said, the animals are great, all this stuff is wonderful. I'm not saying any of that stuff is bad. What I'm saying is, if I want to talk about something, I want to talk about spirituality. I want to talk about these techniques that we can do consciously in order to have that glowing aura, to have this vibrant state of being that we're all supposed to have. It's just we were, you know, in my opinion, programmed to do something else that kind of covered up our essence. That's how I look at it. Because we were all like, I was doing the same thing you were doing in the teens. Nothing against it. I've loved even thinking about it, because that's, you know, if we weren't doing that, we wouldn't be here today where we are now. So it's one of these things. I want to mention too that it's also, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, it's also not a one solution thing. right? Like I get a lot of people that are like, okay, if I just go raw, then all my answers are going to be solved. Or if I just go on this fast,
I was there at one point.
Oh yeah, me too. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's nothing against it. I'm just saying, I know there's these answers, that people, or questions rather, that people are like hearing right now. And to me, that's a big one, because I don't think, if I were to say it's kind of a yogic concept, it's just, if you attach to that, it's going to create suffering, right? So
100%.
It's like, sure, watermelon fast is going to do wonders for you, but if you're attaching to it and you're obsessing about, to me, that's where I slipped into this like orthorexia kind of zone, where it's like very much a fear-based thing, 100%. So I just want to talk about that, because for me, the spirituality component is what saved me, is what brought me this essence back into why we're even, doing this in the first place, right? And
100%.
the passion, whether it's skateboarding or surfing, like it really brings you into the moment, right? It really brings you into this whole essence that we call life. So I don't care what it is, whether it's surfing, skateboarding, meditation, whatever, using that vehicle is really important to do it consciously, to feel better, right? Rather than all these other things like we were talking about, alcohol abuse, whatever, the most opiate abuse, a lot of things that are extremely common right now because of our human conditioning that people are just not able to understand. And then find something what I call natural and sustainable to, cure that, right? Which obviously fruits and vegetables are.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the thing for me at the end of the day. It's like, it won't trend. Like for me, I have a lot of experience as a farmer too. My first job was picking peaches and plums when I was 14, and I just managed a citrus farm for a year. I love farming and just getting my hands dirty. So what I'm saying is, from a business perspective, like it's not like cool, right? You know what I mean? Like fruits and vegetables are not.
I think it's
cool. I know you too.
I think it's super cool.
I'm saying, how do we make it cool for others is my question, basically. Like, how do we create the coolness back? Because what I mean is from like a dopamine perspective, right? Like from the chemistry on our brain. Like when you were starting to eat smoothies and make that transition, you were, it's a transition. And I'm so happy that you described like the lengths of time as well, because I don't recommend like cold turkey going overnight or anything too. It's something where it takes time to kind of integrate this. And I see a lot of people, especially recently on YouTube, right? This is what I call the slingshot effect. They go right back into eating, dairy, meat, whatever, because these reasons are not within. They're not like doing it for themselves, right? Like that whole purpose that you're even doing this is lost. So obviously you've had this the whole time, and that's really what makes you you.
Well, I mean, and that's one thing too, I think is important, is recognizing who you are and what your tendencies are. So like if you are an all or nothing person or a black and white person, you may want to jump into it, but at the same time, like understand that there's always going to be a steady point, and what your steady point is what you'll go back to. So like create a stable, steady point with like plant-based living, that's the thing that is helpful. I mean, if you've been vegetarian, you've been vegan for a while, and you go raw, if you slip up, you're not necessarily going to go all the way back to meat. You might go back to something in between.
Yes.
And irregardless of where you go, be patient and loving, and just take the time it takes, because it does take most people like 5-7 years to apply a raw food diet before they become totally immersed in it, where it just feels normal.
I agree. And I think it's the body awareness. Like, the body is so intelligent, and we don't even have a clue what that is. What I'm saying is the body awareness just takes over. Like you just feel so good that it's really hard to go back and just eat, whatever addicting thing that you were having before. And when you do that, you can feel this, shift.
Such a shift. I think the big thing too is coming into a new relationship with yourself, because and this is really truthfully, I mean, there's so many points when we're talking here that like we could go on forever and ever, but like the real reason I do this is spirituality. It is because, I see this lifestyle as a vortex of positive change. It shines the light on every single dark corner within your psyche, within your soul, and it gets you to see them and either praise them, love them, let them go, praise them for what they are, for the lessons they give you, for the understandings that they bring with experience, or otherwise deny them and see them as bad parts of self and things that you did wrong and were bad, and shove them back down to ferment and come up stinkier and worse later, right? And, I mean, it is, again, is coming into a new relationship with yourself where each and every experience, each and every moment is perfect. It is an opportunity to grow. It is an opportunity to let go deeply into the experience and be in it 110%. And, with that, like, food so often is a sidetrack. It is something to to deny experience. It's like, I'm feeling this. No, I want to feel chocolate cake, or I'm feeling this. No, I want to experience pizza. And like, you know, whatever it is, right? Like coming into a new experience and a new understanding of what it is to be in a relationship with yourself and food, and be okay with whatever the mood is that comes up, to be okay with the things that are flowing through you, because it's part of your experience. Recognizing those heavy, dense experiences, those heavy, dense emotions, they just want to be seen, heard, and loved and let go. It's just the denial of them. It's the pushing down of them that keeps them stuck in your energy field. And if we can see those things as just momentary glitches in our overall experience, the lighter and brighter we get, and the easier and easier it gets to eat lighter, vibrant food, because we're not trying to keep those denser emotions at bay. We're not rejecting them. We're not pushing them down. We're saying, it's okay. Come on up. I love you. That was perfect in its time. And man, I feel so angry because I'm not in complete vibration with what is right now and everything I've gone through. But if you can let that go, everything gets 1,000 times easier. And sometimes it's just, it's in the moment, right? It's just like
so true.
Acceptance in the moment, you know?
So true. That was what I, one of the first realization I had, just going on like a first, like juice fast basically. And it was something where the realization was that it's all emotional components, right, to the food. And for me, my programming was very like for pastries and cookies and things as a young age, because that was my way of love, you know, you're rewarded, here, get the cookies, here, get the and it's so through that fasting experience, it's like you can feel this inner child that wants this love and attention. And like you're saying, if you just welcome and embrace that and just go way through it instead of keep repressing. And I always say too, that's like, it's the resistance that creates that suffering, right? It's that like that pushing down feeling, that the weighted down feeling is not comfortable, right? And I mean, these things that we're talking about, whether it's fasting or fruit or mushrooms or whatever, like these are tools to help lift, right, and expand you. And that's the thing. It's like you really, you realize your true state, who we are, and then you see these limitations, and then you just want to help others. That's really what happens. I think that's a natural human evolution, because empathy is just our highest emotion to have. So when you kind of, stop sweeping all your problems under the rug and you start addressing these things, and you're like, okay, I can do this. And to be honest, the fruit and the lifestyle is like a power tool for that. It gives me the momentum for that. I think a lot of people are kind of stuck with whatever it is, whether it's Taco Bell or anything. And I think all that's fine if you just recognize what, like the reasoning behind it, right? It's instead of just the mindless, as when I was going through McDonald's, I've been through the Taco Bell lines at 2 a.m, and just like anybody else. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, were you present, in that Taco Bell drive-thru? Were you like
Probably not.
Yeah. See what I mean?
Probably anywhere but there, and feeling bad about being there, and rejecting yourself on some level for being there, but being like, oh, whatever, like I deserve it, I should do this or that, right? It's like, and that was one of my biggest kind of breakthroughs too, is a similar kind of vein of like, being conscious in the moment. And that's what creates an even more real relationship with your food, because you might have a craving for specific food, but if you go to eat it and you're unconscious, well, you didn't truly experience it, and you're going to be doomed to repeat it again and again.
Exactly.
So if instead you go, okay, I can eat anything. I'm a raw vegan, and I have vegan tattooed on my arm, but at the same time I say I can eat anything I want, and I can be okay with it. If I truly choose it, then I can be okay with it and not have any baggage around it. Sure, someone else might judge me, but it's more about what I do, and if I judge myself. And in that vein, then no matter what you do, you can be conscious, you can move slowly, you can chew it, you can love every bite, and then actually glean true experience, not filtered through someone else's eyes or filtered through fear, hate, or judgment. And you can just say, this is what is, and does it serve me? And through doing that, you become much more attuned with what really serves you. And, and that doesn't mean you won't go back, because there are going to be times where you're in a low vibration and you want to match that. And you go, well, I'm going to eat this shitty thing because I feel shitty. And it's going to take a few times of doing that before you go, wow, I feel shitty and I want that shitty thing, but I'll actually feel better if I have some water and go jump on the rebound or go walk in nature, right? And all these things bring you back to center, right? And
so true. And you mentioned just bringing into the now. I just want to ask you a question. Like if you orchestra, I believe everyone is basically subconsciously addicted to the moment, to the now that we're talking about. The most human unconscious way to get there is through sex, orgasm, and because it's just hardwired that way, right? So you're just there and then you're gone, right? So, but my question to you is like, how do we do this consciously? Like meditation, I know skateboarding, surfing, action sports things, but for you, just in particular, any practice or thing that you do that brings you into the now?
I mean, I think it's a continuous practice of just coming back to breath, or just coming back to acknowledgement of you being the perceiver of what's happening. So it's like, It's not necessarily thinking the thoughts. It's just seeing the thoughts and seeing them as clouds floating by, and just being like, oh, that's what's going on. Okay, I'm gonna breathe now. And I try my best. I'll admit, like I am not a sit down meditator. I do it on an odd occasion.
Yeah.
But for myself, to me, that similarly equates to, and I hope this doesn't seem like I'm throwing shade on meditation in any way, any way, shape, or form, right? But to me, it is, or church, because that's kind of funny. But to me, it's similar to going into a church to pray, right? It's like sitting down and meditating, but it's like the world is our church. Your breath is the church. The world is meditation. Like,
I agree.
And it's the same with, say, enlightenment. Like, to me, enlightenment isn't a state we attain. It's a state that we choose again and again in every moment. And it's the same thing with meditation. It's like, am I going to choose to be present? Am I going to choose to be here? Am I feeling what I'm feeling? Am I lost in my thoughts and self-identified in my thoughts rather than just witnessing it as it floats by, right?
Beautiful. And these are all yogic concepts, right? And that's why I'm curious just how, because I know you have the Kundalini yoga, which I love. I love how you put the spin on it. And I'm just curious, what was the teacher or introduction? You mentioned a few books earlier. I'm just curious, was a yoga class that you went to? Like, what was just that moment basically where you're like, because this doesn't happen overnight, what you're talking about. This in yoga, we call it the witness mode or the observer, right? And it's just recognizing that you are not your thoughts. You are not this body. You are not these things create a lot of suffering, and that's not our true self. So, and like I said, this is to me a very, yogic concept that a lot of people are struggling to obtain right now because of whatever reason. So there's usually some, switch inside you. I call it going from a consumer to creator. Because there's a lot of people right now that are just mindlessly consuming content, mindlessly, like I said, the drive through whatever. And it's like you turn into this switch and all of a sudden you become a creator and you want to create things and offer things and help people. It's like this switch. So I'm just curious. Yeah. What was it? A yoga class or a book or it could have been a recipe, it could be anything. Everybody's got their,
yeah. Everyone has their different moments. And I mean, that one large Satori moment I mentioned that was really huge. Just recognizing that I am creator. I can choose and create my own reality, and that it is beautiful and light and vibrant, and it is everything. But we get to choose with each thought, word, and action, right? And,
true. I love that story just real quick because a lot of people, like I said, I feel like they're neglecting the nutritional component. Like the temple, the body has to have the minerals, it has to have the necessary components to handle that energy that we're talking about. And obviously your, teen self wasn't able to handle that much energy, same with me. And it took many years of cleansing and detoxing and then knowing what foods to really eat and, bring real nutrition to the body before all of a sudden this, energy happened. The way I look at it is the energy is available to everybody right now on planet Earth. It's just a question of not, is your temple, is your vehicle able to handle it? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And is your mind open to receiving it?
Yes.
I also am trained in Reiki, and I don't do it super often because sometimes it creates the, the patient / the practitioner kind of thing. Whereas like, I do believe, with the faith of a mustard seed, you are healed. It's like, it's in your own faith that you're healed. It's not me doing it. It's just, you believe that I am open to source and I can channel it through me. Well, everyone is open to source. It's just depends upon your perspective. And if you are allowing yourself to experience that reality, and it can be a major shift between thinking it and knowing it. And that is sometimes where, whether it's plant medicines or altered states through yogic practices can really come in. Because once you experience it, just like the passion, once you experience it, then it becomes a part of you. But until you do, it's just knowledge, right? And
true.
I mean, I don't think there's necessarily any shortcuts except for the power of right now. You can right now, but it totally is up to you. That's the reality. And if there's any resistance or if there's any, doubt or if there's any of these things, then that can come in the way, right? And
so true. It's free will.
It's free will. And resistance isn't always like disbelief. Resistance can be belief, but fear of what that would mean for you. That'd be a complete shift in your life. And the beautiful thing about it is you can dance back and forth all you want. You can take 2 steps in, 3 steps out. And I mean, that's generally the reality for most people along a awakened path, as they have a moment where they feel awakened and then slowly it wears off, or they don't pay attention to it, or life comes up. That's life. But it's that opportunity to become awakened again and again, and to choose from heart space rather than mind space again and again, And I mean, I do want to briefly say too, I think a lot of times people get into high vibrational diets or raw food diets or vegan diets, and again, think it's the cure all, or, or just think that like, oh, if I do this, then like everything else would come out easy. But again, the reality is it's a vortex of positive change. And that can first bring you down to your depths of your soul first. And it can bring you to the ends of your emotional, kind of capacity, right? And it's like, you can be wanting to pull your hair out. And again, it all just comes back to like feeling what you feel and allowing it to run through you, loving it, seeing it as a part of the perfection, part of the process, and letting it go. But also, I mean, it does take education. It does take sometimes a hand or a shoulder to cry on, or, the experience of someone else, or really good recipes. All these different things really come into play because it touches every single aspect of your life. It's not just, food. It comes into the social sphere. It comes into the emotional sphere, and it touches deeper on your spiritual states often. And all of that can be very jarring for a lot of people. And so people get into it not knowing what they're getting themselves into. And all of a sudden their whole world is shook. And all of a sudden, if they're not ready, then they might just be like, no, I just need meat, or I just need this, because they need that
just programming. And the body doesn't know any better. So it's like, I need the iron, whatever's happening. And it just says, give me the meat. And that's what I mean. For me, I'm just thinking about my meditation practice, because I have that space to be like, okay, I recognize my body needs the iron and the meat. Am I going to go have some beets or whatever? Or am I going to go have, you know what I mean? Like it's about that spaciousness, right? That, because we all have the cravings, we all have the thing. And it's that reactive state that we're trying to get out of as human beings, that we're constantly, reacting from that back of the brain, the monkey brain, that's all emotional, instead of this, human self, which is up here in the prefrontal cortex, which is actually our real, intelligence. And nothing against emotions. What I'm saying is they're trapping a lot of people, and they're just keeping them there rather than
100%.
Right. This is all good stuff. I'm curious for you. I just want to pedal back a little bit, because it sounds like we were on the same page. I just turned 31. How old are you? I'm curious.
38.
38.
Yeah, 39 this year.
You're right ahead of me. I'm curious. I'm just curious because we left at like Dr. Graham. For me, that's when I got into Dr. Robert Morris and went into iridology and went kind of that route. And that's where I still am today. So I'm just curious, did you go that way too? Or did you keep like?
I mean, I've had so many different teachers and so many people I've learned from. And I mean, when I first met Doug, it was, I think, 3 or 4 years before 80-10-10 came out. And I learned from him. And I mean, also at that time, there was no YouTube. There was his support board was virtually the only one I knew of on the internet. There's very few books on raw food unless you really dug up. And a lot of them were old enough and kind of more stiff, I'll say, than, what really felt with me. I still read all the classics, but a lot of them, I remember reading some books and it would say, like, for example, like, the intelligent man will choose this. And it's like, so you're saying anyone who doesn't choose that is an idiot? I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't vibe with that. Like, I gleaned a lot of information, but it, you know what I'm saying. And from there, I mean, I learned from, from David Wolf to Roger Heska to Frederick Patno to Gabriel Cousins to Brian Clement, from Victoria Botinko to who are some other Ann Osborne and Gerson, and like so many people.
Charlotte is a bit like the Gerson. It's just funny because I feel like those are the top dogs, right? Like they were talking about real health transformation. Like, well, this is something that's like serious that I take very seriously. And then there's like this like trendy vegan thing that's happened, and nothing against it. Like I love that veganism is trending. I love that all of this is popular. I'm just saying it's funny looking back like this, because to me, those are still my rock star idols too. And it's like, this is real health and real nutrition, not just like this, the kind of vegan thing that's just kind of happened within the last few years. See what I mean? All come together now, which is beautiful. It's very beautiful. It's just, for me, it's interesting seeing how many like sects of veganism, like there's activism, I got some radical hardcore activism friends that I love, and I, fellow activists, I love all of that stuff. And then there's like, for me, I love food. I love the chef life, and Matthew McKinney. And so I say he's the only one that's really like, as far as aspiring in the whole chef world and making an influence in real health in the cuisine. So there's so many avenues to this, and I'm just really happy you mentioned spirituality too, because at the end of the day, we're eating for spirit, we're eating for this uplifting consciousness, and you've tapped into that, because a lot of people haven't made that connection yet, doing it because it's cool or whatever, which is fine to me. I don't care what it is, what the icebreaker is, because I just know eventually it's going to just solidify, and then you
that's
just
it.
back. you know.
You grow in reasons, right? You start where you're at, and the more you get into it, the more people you connect with who are on a similar page, the more reasons you have. And I mean, that's a huge kind of building block into longevity, is building your reasons and continually searching for them. Because if you're just vegan for health, or if you're in your health fails, then you might be like, oh, this didn't work and I should do something else. If you're vegan for health and for animals, well, you've got two roads. If you're vegan for health and animals and the environment and spirituality and, you know, to be an example, like there's so many reasons, right? And I think the more we tie ourselves strong into those things, the more strong we are throughout the entire journey.
It's so awesome, dude, seeing, especially you can imagine too, like even just seeing the stuff that's happening with Taco Bell, KFC, like it's finally hit like mainstream too. Like I saw this coming a long time ago. I just didn't know if I was going to live to see it or not, you know? And it's really cool to see plant-based burgers and things at Carl's Jr. and all this stuff. And it's like, wow, the world is really coming. Like it's, you know, it's waking up. Yeah,
it's the fastest growing movement, I believe. And I mean, almost every single like fast food joint or place that gets these burgers and stuff like that, now they're selling out like immediately. So and you know, of course there's kickback. I remember just I think last year I did a video about the A&W having it, and I mean, there's going to be a kickback because there's huge industries, and there's going to be there's even more and more and more the fake news. I love all these bunny ears. Fake news, right? There's more and more of this stuff because, you know, there's vested interest, right? And you know, there's the new carnivore movement, and I have a friend who actually says, like, you know what, veganism is Satan's diet. That's what he truly believes, and people believe this stuff. It's amazing, but that is again the power.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable because of how popular vegan is. We're talking millions now versus just a little thing. So there had to be some anti-vegan movement at some point. And I mean, it's all over the internet. We don't have to go there. It's just funny how I just knew it would happen eventually, because anything positive, there's always going to be somebody trying to, you know, chisel it down to wherever they're at. So it's all good. I have no, you know, judgment or anything. It's just funny. To me, it's funny because at the end of the day, like I said, it's those people, like we can't reinvent fruits and vegetables. You know what I mean? Like to me, you've seen it all, man. We've been through Atkins. I remember my grandma was doing Atkins. I remember this thing and that. And like we're circling right back to this keto thing. And now, I mean, intermittent fasting, all this stuff is, you know, very popular. And I just want to say something real quick, Chris. For me, I always look back like in scripture and older texts and history and things, like, because to me, like even raw veganism or whatever, it's not a new concept. It's not.
No, of course not. It's the oldest thing there is. It's what we had before we had fire for the first 97 to 99% of our time on the planet. You know,
exactly. And for me, I discovered it with yoga too, like Ayurveda. There's, I think, Cousins is the only one that I know that talks about it in the bigger spectrum of things, but what I'm saying is this is Vedic knowledge as well, and there's a lot of older traditions kind of tied into this stuff. So there's basically a lot to know in this whole field, and it's something that's very exciting. And it's like I said, you can't reinvent the wheel. There's no new you know, superfood out there or whatever that's going to do it for you. You know what I mean? Like it's all here. It's been here, and
they'll try and market it to you, though. I tell you.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I feel like that's
and some of them have benefit, but the reality comes back to this too, is like those superfoods are only going to have a benefit if you are specifically looking for those magic bullets, and you want to live an average lifestyle, but put a couple magic bullets in there to elevate you. And you know, the reality is, I believe it is through a whole lifestyle. You know, it's not just having one magic thing and then the rest is burgers and fries from whatever, right? Whether it's vegan or not, right? It's about eating more whole plant foods and coming closer connected to nature and to yourself, and passion and purpose, and doing things that really just light you up. And, you know, all the lifestyle factors, it's holistics. And that's where people get it wrong if they're yogis or if they're raw foodists and they swear that's the only key component. It's like, yoga isn't more important than raw food, and raw food isn't more important than yoga or or calisthenics or whatever you want to do, but movement and stillness and good food and sleep and passion and purpose and air and water and love, all these things are just as important, right? And
I agree. And one word, I would say balance.
Balance, exactly, right? Exactly. And sometimes you got to come out of balance to find your balance. It's just like doing a tree pose in yoga. You don't just get into it first. You hyper focus on one aspect until you get it enough that you can let it go. And that's what I see with raw food too, is usually it's a year or two where people are into it, where they're so hyper focused on it that it's like all they can talk about, all they can think about, all they can say. And then after that starts to burn out, if they haven't started branching out into the other aspects of health and recognize, hey, I'm eating raw food so I can live a light, vibrant lifestyle, not so I can be a raw foodist, but so I can do things and I can feel great and I can be a great example and lighten my load on this planet, on the animals, on everyone.
Yeah.
That's when you start to really lift yourself up.
True. So true. Beautifully said. 100% resonate with that. It's amazing how the way I look at it, it's just this is available to us and this is our true state. And I look at the sun as the source of information and the fruit is just the most tangible way to get that information. That's just how I look at it. And 100%. When we talk about energy and frequency, there's this frequency available to us on Earth. We don't have to get into and call it like the Schumann or anything. We don't have to label it. What I'm saying is a lot of people are not in tune with that frequency. And that's where a lot of their ailments are coming from. Circadian rhythm, right? We've all heard that term. And that rhythm is very specific depending on where you are on the planet and what you're doing and what time of year it is. I mean, I learned the most of this in Alaska where you are too. It's like there is seasons, you know, people, I think, I hear in California where I'm at, a lot of people, you know, there's not, you know, for me as a farmer, I just kind of, the only thing that, to be honest with you, that kind of triggers me with raw foodism is the immense, like I love Miami fruit. I love tropical fruit and all that. It's just like, honestly, I don't want to eat tropical fruit unless I'm in Hawaii or unless I'm in these places. Like you love Costa Rica. I know, you know what it's like. Like those bananas there are just, you know, they're not compared to anywhere else, right? It's something you just have to be at that place in order to really live the lifestyle. I'm just, basically what I'm getting at is environment. Really need to focus on environment and just put yourself in the right place to thrive rather than like, you know, all the self-judge and self-hate. Like we have the power to control our environment. See, that's what I'm saying. If you're
that's what differentiates us between all other species. Is we can actually manipulate our environment. You know what I mean? Yes. And sure, some animals can make a dam or make a little house or something, but not near to the extent that we can. And I mean, I do want to mention, you know, because like, I mean, you know, I've been doing this for a long time and I travel all over the world, and regardless of where I am, I mean, it's the same to me as like a panda that thrives on the eucalyptus tree, right? Like if you move a panda from China and you bring them to North America, they still thrive on the eucalyptus, right? Like they can eat other stuff, but it's not going to end up with the same kind of thing, right? And, I mean, I travel a lot, and while, you know, I know like, because I've talked to some people that locavorism is above species.
I like this concept. I do. I went through this in Alaska big time. I just hold download right here because I was just picking wild berries all day. I mean, there, no joke, I spent like $40 on watermelon. Like I'm just saying, a place like Alaska, it's like everything was coming from California, literally. And I was working as a chef there too. So it's like the cilantro, as you're making guacamole, like there's a tag on it that says California, and it's just, eventually it just started to weigh on me. That's all. And, you know, zero waste is popular. People are waking up about the landfills and the trash and the plastic and all this stuff. And I'm just circling into this whole holistic approach. And so I pretty much lived on wild blueberries, you know, and just
that's awesome.
And greens, you know, and
can't get much better.
I'm not going to lie, it was rough, you know, and there was a little Thai food spot that I had to just eventually cave in and get every once in a while because that was just all there was. You see what I mean? So I just, what I'm saying is I want to bring it into more of like a practical situation and like for the everyday man, right? Like, for example, there's dandelions everywhere, dude, like one of the most powerful liver cleansing herbs on the planet, right? And it's like in everybody's front yard. And I would much rather see people eating that, obviously in a hopefully organic, non-sprayed place. But what I'm saying is, that's a good example of this, you know, thing that I see. I just see a lot of people that are just, you know, consuming and kind of adding to that rather than circling back to this whole picture of why, you know, we're all on this, you know, bandwagon together. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree too. There's more local foods you can eat, especially wild crafted that you can pick yourself. It's super good. I mean, I do the same when I'm here. And the only thing I'm trying to add to that too is if something is your goal or something is really important to you, there are ways of making it happen. And of course, you know, if you're in certain situations, like I lived up north in Nuvik for a while where, you know, I was in an isolation camp and, you know, they would get 1 case of bananas per month and I'd try and take 10 or 15 and people would get pissed at me and I'd try and eat the oranges and apples and I couldn't leave the camp. I was working there, you know, and this is like early on in my health journey. And so I had to start eating some other stuff. Right. But for the most part, you know, we can make it happen. And, you know, I think it is really important to note sometimes that a lot of the tropical food is shipped on big shipping containers, which interestingly can actually have a lower environmental impact than getting something trucked in from the next country. You know, like my girlfriend she's a part of this really big food company in Sweden. And they did a study showing that local asparagus in Sweden actually was worse for the environment than stuff that was shipped from like 4 countries over, which was very paradoxical, but it's not always as cut and dry as we think, you know?
It's true. No, it's very true. I can see that. And it's the other side of that too is also the food waste.
Yes.
Just, you know, we all know about it now, just the sheer, I mean, I know about it just from the restaurant industry and being a chef and the whole thing. Like, you see a lot of food waste, and it's our consciousness. I'm just saying this because this was a part of my motivation for the way I eat now. Like this morning, I just had a whole honeydew. It's like you eat the whole honeydew. It's there. It's like, it just makes sense because the honeydew is composted. You eat, like, there's just no waste. It's like I didn't even have to.
Perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I often say that fruit to me is Mother Nature's love. You know, it's like, it's all the pranas. It's, you know, it's the air, the water, the fire, the earth, all mixed together into a perfect package, compostable, that is for you, for your nourishment. And it is just amazing too, that when we look at all of the nutrients that human beings require that are coming from food, so that's separate from the air, from the light, you know, from the soil, which can have some bacterias and stuff, but all the foodborne nutrients, there's no food on the planet that comes closer to matching our exact needs than fruits.
I agree.
Number 2 is vegetable, but everything that vegetable comes in number 1 spot, fruit comes in number 2. And everything that fruit comes in number 1 spot, vegetable comes in number 2. So it's like these things that come up from the earth with all the piranhas are just our perfect food. It's just amazing, you know, and they're freely given unless we have to, you know, go to a store and buy them from someone who took the time to till it themselves.
Yeah, all that is good. Yeah, all that. This, when I first got into, even the, I'm just saying the definition of those. I love studying conscious language too. Did you ever get into the Essenes? You know about the Essenes?
Yeah.
So that's where it went for me, changing even my definition of what fruit is. And for the listeners, it's like, you know, before, you know, Romans. Basically, there's a lot of things with language that has evolved, right? And I think the Roman Empire had a big influence in that shift that we have. And just pre-Roman Empire, there's a lot of things. Scripture talks about seed, right, is bearing fruit. So a little bit of audio. There we go.
I'm getting some like kind of crinkly noise with your voice. It's like a fuzz.
Yeah, just cutting out there a little bit. No worries. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, just saying that anything bearing seed is fruit. So it's like, you know, I think about cucumbers or other things, you know, it's just a lot of things that possibly, but that's all I'm saying. And I think pre-conditioning and pre-industrial revolution and all this stuff, we were just eating a lot more simply. And that's how I look at my lifestyle now, is just like, how can I undo a lot of that programming that we got just recently in this last 100 years, right?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is very recent when you think about the, you know, the spectrum of human beings on planet Earth. And now it's like, I feel like just in the last even few years where science is finally starting to catch up, and it's like, actually, wait a minute, the fluoride in the tap water is not good, and this isn't good, and the air you're like, there's so many things that, you know, we've been doing for a long time.
Oh yeah.
That people are waking up to, that's just not okay, you know, and they're drawing that line in the sand, and they're like, you know what, I don't want fluoride in my tap water. What I got to do? Like, I have to go get my own stuff. I have to drive, like, from where I'm here in Sacramento, I got to drive about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's real water, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's my values, and that's what I always put number one, because I've educated myself, and I don't have any other, I mean, sure, if, you know, I don't have the time to get the water, I'll try to find a number 2, but I'm saying is I don't want tap water, you know? So
no, I hear that. I hear that. And I mean, it all stems from what we know in the present moment, and a kind of reductionist mentality of like, oh, well, this is good for this, well, then it's good for everyone. And like, you know, and I think it's often important to recognize, at least with the best intention, things were started, you know, and oftentimes we learn more, we grow, and recognize, you know what, that wasn't the best intention. And the few that know that and continue it going on past that point, that's another karmic story. But for the most part, these things were created with, you know, the intentions of helping the most people, or the intentions of making money, or but usually not from a sinister point. And then they grow into that place. And, you know, as we grow, we understand, okay, everything works in harmony, and we got to figure out things that actually are more in balance with ourselves and the environment and our microbiome and all these things that weren't understood at one point before, right?
Oh yeah, it's like I said, it's just fun to see the whole circle of evolution come back, you know. I mean, doctors were prescribing cigarettes, you know, and things, smoking. Well, like, we can talk about this all day. And now I think, just like I said, in the last couple of years, it's finally reading what I like to call the happy medium, where it's just like people understand basic, you know, clean water, clean food. Like, it's just something that simple, right, has been overlooked for a long time. And
huge. Yeah.
We're finally just circling back to that, you know, organic and blah, blah, blah. Like, all this stuff to me was very normal. And now it's like we've been lost in these last few generations. It's back to real. And at the end of the day, that's what drove me to Alaska and these other, Hawaii or places where it's just less contaminated, And Canada, you're blessed too, because I just feel like in Canada as a whole, you're less contaminated just for the cultural values. I'm just saying there's just more, land mass and less, city and
it's a little fresher air here compared to some places. I used to live in LA a lot, and I noticed after a while that I would actually feel it, Yeah. Be biking around the city every single day, then my lungs would start to feel like I was smoking a pack of cigarettes. And
yeah. When I flew to Thailand, it was the same. I just don't understand how there's parts of Thailand where it's just like, wow. And then I was recently in LA, and it's really bad as well. It's just like we're hitting critical mass. We're hitting that point where we have to take action, and that's we're talking about, whether it's being vegan or picking up more fruit in your diet, being conscious about zero waste. All these little details are coming or putting together the puzzle pieces, and it's just awesome to witness.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. We're in a magical time right now where we're so filled with opportunity, and it all starts with ourselves, and whatever aspect we want to treat ourselves to and treat ourselves more kindly to, the more we're going to grow from it, and it's going to just spread out, further and further. I'm a huge believer in being the change yourself, right? And we can make outward movements, we can take outward action, but if it comes from an authentic place of self-discovery and self-betterment, then that's how we're going to reach more people, I believe,
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, awesome, man. It's been a good time chatting with you. How can, I know you just updated your website. Let's talk about that. I know I just saw you post that on Instagram. I know you do some awesome coaching, and do you have a retreat coming up or anything?
Yeah. I got a retreat next February, March. So I usually only do 1 or 2 a year, but the next one's in Costa Rica, February, March.
Sweet.
Doing a lot of festivals this year. So I'll be at the UK Fruit Fest. I'll be at the Canada Fruit Fest and the Woodstock Fruit Fest. And I have a discount code, BANANA. If anyone wants to go, you can get 10%, $100 off any of those festivals. Links for that are on my events page at TheRawAdvantage.com. And my site's newly updated. I'm really stoked. It's been like 8 months of work with other people, of course, updating it and getting it all together and celebrating that. I have a sale too, 25% off basically everything in my store for at least the next couple of weeks. So how long will until this is up?
I'll have it up this week. What's today? Monday? No, what's today? Tuesday? I'm not sure. My sense of time is like way off right now. It'll be up this week though. Just take me to edit it or so, and then I'll get it up for sure. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah.
So all of those codes will be valid, definitely. Yeah.
Yep, that'll be all valid and all good. And yeah, man, that's what's going on right now, is just preparing for festivals and enjoying more skateboarding. I've had a long journey since last year, getting a motorcycle accident, and I had a hernia surgery just a couple months ago, and it's been a long physical healing road, which has also got me more in touch with my mental, emotional side even more. And it's been a beautiful process. I wouldn't trade anything for it, to be honest. And it's just led me more to be in the moment, to be authentic with myself too. Like, I need to take a rest, I need to take a break. Well, what else can I be doing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Brought me back to bring in more.
Yeah, no, it's true. We have a lot in common in that sense. It's like, that productive mindset, and it's when you get into that mode, and then even that could be inhibiting. I'm doing the same thing right now. It's like kind of, circle back to those things that are really the most valuable to your life, right? And just the simplicity of like reading a book or the walk in nature or just whatever that is, that practice, and to me, that's the essence of this life. So it's like that mindfulness practice. We can call it yoga. You can call it meditation. I mean, it doesn't have to be a sit down style. It could be walking. Whatever brings you, closer to the earth, to the universe, closer to your purpose, and providing it, to others. I think that's really what it comes down to.
100%, man.
Well, awesome, brother. Well, thanks for being here. Much love. Truly appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Awesome to connect with everyone out here.